What's up, football fans? So, big news out of Las Vegas this morning. Davante Adams, the old Packers All-Pro wide receiver, has just been charged with misdemeanor assault for pushing cameraman Ryan Zebley. Davante, on the last play of the game against the Chiefs, the Raiders were winning by a lot earlier in the game. Chiefs roared back, took the lead, and then the Raiders tied it, or had potential to tie it. It would have been 30-30 if they would have went for the extra point. McDaniels decides to go for two, which I don't understand still. I still question that, but I would have just tied it at that moment. Anyway, Raiders do get another shot at least taking the lead, trying to score some points at the end of the game. They had a really critical 4th and 1, and instead of running it with Josh Jacobs, who had a career high, game high, 154 yards on the ground, they decided to do one of their, out and ups with Davante and hope he could beat his man like he did earlier in the game on a nice 50-plus yard touchdown. This time, though, Hunter Renfrow and Davante collided about 25 yards downfield, took them both down, and the ball sailed about 50 yards in the air, and no one was there because they were both on the ground. So, obviously, a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration after that play. Davante, you could see him immediately smash his helmet down on the ground, really, showing his physically showing how upset he was with the play, with how everything happened in that game, and for dropping to 1-4 now on the season. Obviously, Davante got paid big money to go to Las Vegas, and so long with them being in one place, it's hard to still get it right. But the Raiders, he got paid a lot to go to the Raiders, and people know that. People know he's a $100 million receiver. As Davante's walking off the field after, he smashed his helmet on the ground, he had his helmet back on. He was going off the field towards the tunnel, and that tunnel is supposed to be clear. It's supposed to be open, and it's supposed to be able to walk through it. These players, obviously emotional, whether they're excited or they're upset, they're going to be running off the field. They're full pads, full helmets, and this guy is standing right in the way. Granted, it doesn't excuse Davante's behavior. Obviously, he cannot just push somebody. You can't put your hands on anybody at all anymore in society today, period. Obviously, with COVID, people don't want you near them, let alone everybody is happy, suing each other for whatever. And the second you put your hands on somebody, it's going to be a legal situation or a legal matter, pretty much no doubt, especially when you have a guy that's worth upwards of $100 million like Davante Adams. People are going to try to bait you. They're going to try to extort you. They're going to try to get their money out of you. Obviously, he's a cameraman, so he's not making Davante Adams money. But I saw it live. I had the video posted of him actually pushing the guy, and the cameraman got up immediately. Didn't seem like, he hit anything or bounced off anything, hit his head or anything. He fell over, kind of used his body and his camera to kind of keep him from hitting the ground too hard. And obviously, he was caught off guard. Obviously, Davante shouldn't have done that. Obviously, assault charges are, acceptable. I understand the situation. You can't have players doing that to people. But now, the cameraman, Ryan Zebley, is saying that he's experienced a whiplash and he had a headache, and now he has a possible minor concussion, which, if you see the video, it doesn't look like he hit his head on anything at all. You couldn't really see it, though. It was kind of dark and he fell over. But from the way that he was kind of standing and moving, didn't seem like it was that serious. Obviously, like I said, Davante cannot do it. It's inexcusable, completely inexcusable. Davante now, if convicted, faces a 15-day jail sentence and a $750 fine, which obviously for a guy like Davante Adams is nothing. But it could ruin some of his off-the-field endorsements, some of those deals he has. It's obviously not a good image, not a good look for a guy who's been so clean in the media and just in general. He's a really, quiet guy, doesn't go out and party, doesn't go to the clubs, all those things. He's a guy that's really kind of been a true pro, especially while he was with the Packers. Never had any issues like this, never was even in the news for anything, negative whatsoever. And now his first year in Vegas with them being 1-4, such a crazy loss. I really don't think McDaniel should have went for 2 there. You're battling back and forth with Mahomes. Tie the game there. Make it so that they have to score to win. Don't make it so that they can just keep the ball and win, or they just have to stop you from scoring to win. Make it so they have to score to win. They didn't do that. They lost because of that. I get going for 2 to try to win the game, but not with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It just doesn't make sense. So obviously the Chiefs had the ball. Raiders did get it back. They had a chance. And because of that 4th and 1 call, Davante was just so mad. And I get the frustration. Obviously, you leave a great quarterback, an MVP quarterback, a great situation where you got drafted for a whole new situation. And obviously the success has just not come. He had a really good game. He had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Chiefs, so he had a really good game personally, but he was hoping for that 3rd touchdown on that last big play. It looked like he had his man beat. It looked like he would have at least had a play on the ball, and who knows how it would have ended up, but because he ran into Renfro, Renfro did like a little... He was going up and towards the sidelines, and Davante was going up and then back out like towards the middle. So as he was coming towards the sidelines and he was coming towards the middle, they just collided and took them both out. And it was literally, they hit each other. The defenders weren't even like next to him. It was just, you could flat out see them collide. And that was that. There's no flag, there's no anything. It's just the route combination sent them right into each other, and you really can't do that on that play. They didn't have Darren Waller out there at that time. He had been hurt earlier, and him and Hunter Renfro collided with each other. So, you understand the frustration. Being 1-4, having a game you could have won there at Kansas City against the Chiefs, your arch rival, the team that they brought Davante Adams over here to beat. The reason they brought Chandler Jones over here so they could beat the Chiefs, and they still come up short, and to have it be in the manner that it did is so frustrating, obviously, for a guy like Davante Adams. It's frustrating for the whole team, but, having the last play called for you and then not be able to make a play on it because your own teammate took you out. And I know he's not really mad at Renfro for that, but it's still, blame's got to be put on somebody. Davante was so frustrated, and he took it out on somebody that obviously was the wrong person. You got to just keep those feelings and emotions in check. You can't lash out physically. Absolutely not, no matter what. And for Davante Adams, this is going to be a situation that is going to, be over in his mind, over his head for the next couple of months at least. Maybe he can settle with this Ryan Zebley guy outside of court, but it's still going to be an issue that kind of tarnishes this first year for Davante in Vegas, and obviously the really poor start for the Raiders. I personally did not have them making the playoffs, especially in such a tough division. I thought maybe, there was a chance that all 4 teams could make the playoffs, but then I thought the more and more I thought about it, these guys are going to beat up on each other, and it's probably going to be more like 2 teams only that make the playoffs. And it looks like it's going to be, the Raiders and the Broncos who are the odd teams out, but I did pick the Raiders to be that odd team out, even with all the additions they had. And now, they're probably second guessing a lot of stuff, second guessing Josh McDaniels, play selection, play calling, going for 2, things like that. And then, you have 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, and you don't run the ball. Josh Jacobs had 154 yards on the ground. He had a huge night. He's just really difficult to tackle. I think he would have gotten the 1 yard, spread him out, and run an inside zone. I think he gets you that 1 yard, keep the drive alive, keep the game alive. And, to have a play that ends like that, it's just for the fans, for the team, for the players, for everybody. It's like, oh my gosh, like, what happened? It's like so much hope, and then it's just gone in a second, and that's it. Kind of like what happened in the Packer game on 3rd and 2 and 4th and 2. Just real quick throws, and it's done. And kind of what happened with there. He threw it up, and it looked like it was going to be a potential catch, at least, a first down, if not a touchdown for Davante, and the play's over before it even gets started. And like I said, we understand the frustration. We understand how Davante, would be so upset, but you just, as a pro athlete, as a guy that is a target for people who are trying to get over on others or trying to find an easy way up or all those things, you're a target. This is a lesson for all, athletes, famous people, people with money, that people know that. People know, they see that you have money, they know you have money, they understand it and all those things. So it's really important that when you're in those positions that you just protect yourself. Don't do anything that's going to put your, future or your personal image or all those things in jeopardy. And it really shouldn't be something that Davante, should tarnish Davante's legacy, moving forward. He's still all-pro. He's still probably a first-ballot Hall of Famer if he keeps on this trajectory. But for Davante, just not a good look, and tough loss for the Raiders. New coach, kind of what I thought would be the issue. Some of those, decisions, really tough decisions at the end of the game. I think McDaniels was trying to be like, what would Bill Belichick do here? Oh, he'd go for 2. But actually, I don't think he would. I think he would have tied it. He knew the game, the situation, and all those things. I think he would have just tied it up there. I think most coaches would have. So definitely second guessing from the players. I think that, fed into some of the frustration for Adams, because if they would have got the extra point there, they could have called different plays there. It wouldn't have been the end of the game on that play. It's only the end of the game because they weren't tied on that 4th and 1, and the collision is just so final. Davante and Hunter crashing into each other, just so final. Just, ended the play right there, and just all a guy wants, all a player wants, all receivers want, or the quarterback wants is a chance, a shot at making a play. The receiver just wants the quarterback to throw it up. Give me a chance. Just give me a shot. It's one thing if they make a great play and they stop it, and that's that. But just give me a chance to make a play. And that comes down to play calling too. You got to call a play that's going to get your guys open, not crash your guys into each other. They really only had 2 guys out on routes on that play, Hunter and Adams. I think there was other guys doing other things, but the deep route combinations were just Davante and Hunter. And to have them crash into each other just shows that, they're just not on the same page. The practice wasn't great this week, likely, and the communication isn't where it needs to be. Such a critical moment to have such a horrible play happen, and obviously the frustration set in. But again, can't have that happen. Can't push people, and now we're starting to see what horrible, things can come of that because of how people are in society today. I don't know this Ryan Zebley guy. I don't know anything about him or his family or his upbringing or anything. I just know that the push wasn't, super aggressive, that he was really trying to hurt the guy. He was just trying to move him out of the way, like, get out of my way, dude, And I get that. You can't do it, but I understand it. It wasn't a malicious, he had no malicious intent on that. And now that he's saying, I had whiplash and I have a possible minor concussion, it's either you have a concussion or you don't. It's not a possible minor. It's either you do or you don't. And you know it if you do. I had one when I was younger, and it was severe, and I didn't know who I was for like 14 hours. So, I know what concussions are like. These players do too. And, this is just lawyer talk. Intentional, overt act that caused the whiplash, a headache, and possible minor concussion. I mean, that's total legality talk. That's total lawyer talk. That's totally, we're trying to just, get some money for pain and suffering and things like that, damages. And, I'm sure Davante's going to settle with this Ryan Zebley guy for about $1 million just to make it all go away, to drop the charges and to just move on. It'll be interesting, though. I don't know what the law is in Kansas City. Some states, if it is an assault or something like that, and the person drops the charges, the state will pick the charges up. So it's going to be interesting to see how Kansas City handles this. Maybe it'll just be something that can get swept under the rug and people will kind of forget about it. But if they want to, they could really push this forward, and maybe it could be a really expensive assault for Davante Adams, a really expensive push for Davante Adams, and I think it's going to definitely deter his behavior in the future and a lot of other players from doing similar things like this. But it also is the responsibility of the NFL to make sure that those, tunnels and lanes and aisles are clear for the players and coaches. They don't need to be worried about a guy in their way. You know what? Davante should not have pushed him, but he shouldn't have to have a guy in his way there shouldn't have been a guy there to push, is the point. It kind of goes both ways. Obviously, the behavior is completely wrong, and he should not have done it, but the NFL has to do more to protect these players from situations like that. I mean, whether Davante's running down the tunnel is celebrating the win, and he turns and then he runs into a guy. I mean, or if he's pissed and he's not thinking about anything and then he looks up and he just kind of pushes the guy out of his way. Can happen, but I understand it. The NFL has to do more to protect these players from situations like this. And then if that means having guys along the aisle, making sure that no one can go in there, that's what you got to do. And so it'll be interesting to see what the NFL does about this. It'll be interesting to see what kind of punishment Davante gets. It'll be interesting to see what kind of settlement occurs with Ryan Zebley. And it'll be interesting just to see how this plays out over the next couple of weeks for everybody involved and see how the Raiders bounce back from this. Obviously the loss is a big hit for them. And then having this, all the media scrutiny and everything and people talking about your star receiver and obviously about the game as well. And so there's just a lot of talk now that teams don't need additional talk, especially after a loss. So hopefully Davante learns from this. The Raiders learn from this. Other players learn from this. Coaches, teams, and the NFL learn from this. And hopefully this is the last time we see something like this. Such a bummer, though, because I really do like Davante Adams. I loved him as a Packer. I really like him as a person. I like him as an athlete, as a receiver. I think he's just a straight baller. But you have to, act a certain way on and off the field no matter what. And emotions run high, but you have to keep them in check. That's part of being in the national spotlight, the world spotlight. Part of being a pro athlete is being able to keep yourself in check in moments like that and be able to perform when, the pressure is on. So, like I said, hopefully it's just a learning experience for everybody. And, tough to see Adams go out like that kind of, but he'll bounce back. This team will bounce back. And I think that the NFL and everybody involved will be better for this situation. And hopefully Ryan Zebley can kind of lean up on his, I got assaulted, intentional overt act. Davante, if he wanted to intentionally hurt somebody, I'm sure he could, and he's just not that type of guy. It was just out of frustration. Obviously, that can't happen, but I think that it got blown out of proportion, obviously, and hopefully they can settle this without too much, financial gain or, too much legality getting involved and everything. So, all right, guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you guys think about this situation, what they should do with Davante, what the NFL should do about this situation in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out. Go Packers, and I'll see you guys next time.